Welcome and glad to have you join me for another edition of Just the Truth as I broadcast from the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose the weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. In a video shot by Fox Nation's Knapp, dozens of migrants are seen leaving the area of two large SUVs and walking towards the border wall just below San Diego. The report says that the group included nationals from China, Turkey, Brazil, and India, adding that there was only one Border Patrol agent nearby when the crossing took place. We'll give you all the details here in just a moment. Billionaire hedge fund manager Bill Ackman continued his campaign against President Biden, arguing that the drone attack that killed 3 U.S. soldiers and injured dozens more on Sunday was further evidence that the president should not have a second term in the White House. And by the way, we have the names of those 3 patriots. We'll give you some of the details on who they were, all from Georgia, by the way. A woman accused of stealing more than $100 million from the Army has retired with full benefits, despite an ongoing criminal investigation into an alleged 6-year fraud scheme, according to an Army spokesperson. Only in America could something like this happen. Elon Musk announced that his human tech startup, Neuralink, has inserted a chip implant into the brain of its first human test subject. All of that plus your text messages on the Furman Ford text line. You can join today's conversation by dialing 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639, leaving a voice message, or send us a quick text on the Furman Ford text line. Your emails are always welcome at joey@joeyhudson.com.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson Bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson Bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
A very disturbing video released by Fox News yesterday shows the moment that 2 large SUVs pull up to the border and dozens of illegals get out and cross into the U.S. in the Jacumba, California area. This is just below San Diego. Jacumba is the eastern portion of San Diego County, and it's monitored by the Border Patrol San Diego sector. The sector has been has seen a big uptick in border crossings in recent days as Texas continues its effort to lock down its southern border with Mexico. This video was shot by Fox Nation's Knapp. Dozens of migrants are seen leaving the area of these two SUVs, and they walk to the border. As the migrants reach the end of the wall section, they're then seen turning the corner and entering the U.S. illegally. Then they realize that they're being recorded, and they start jogging away, and the 2 SUVs leave the area. Knapp said people in the group included nationals from China, Turkey, Brazil, and India, adding that there was only one Border Patrol agent nearby when the crossing took place. According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection sources, there are nearly 1,100 Border Patrol apprehensions in the San Diego sector on Sunday alone. It included 97 Chinese nationals, 91 Turkish nationals. Over 850 of the illegal crossings were made by single adults, primarily males. And Joe Biden wants us to think that we're not being invaded, that these are just poor people from South America, Mexico, wanting a better life. How does people from China, Turkey, Brazil, and India get to Mexico to cross into our border to begin with? It's intentional. It is an invasion. Last week, a group of former FBI officials warned about a new and imminent danger for the U.S., suggesting that the country has been invaded by military-age foreign nationals. In a letter sent to lawmakers in the House and Senate, the former officials warned that the U.S. was facing a new and imminent danger, highlighting that there were over 302,000 illegal encounters in December after a record fiscal 2023 in which there were 2.4 million encounters. We don't know about the getaways. These officials include former FBI Assistant Directors Kevin Brock and Chris Swecker, former Terrorist Screening Center Director Timothy Healy, and former Acting Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Mark Morgan, who is also a former FBI superintendent. The letter was written at a time when border security is a top political issue. Again, I found that out easily, primarily in New Hampshire last week. I'll repeat myself. I've said this a couple times now, but it's still just amazing to me that people in New Hampshire realize the threat that our southern border represents, and they're 1,900 miles away. Republicans have blamed the crisis, of course, on Biden-era policies and the reversal of a lot of Trump-era policies. The administration says that it needs more funding and reforms to fix what they call a broken system and deal with a hemisphere-wide crisis. It is a broken system, but Joe Biden has no desire to fix it. He could lock it down today. He doesn't want to. He's using it as a political pawn. He wants things to get tough so that political pressure, or he hopes political pressure, will force Republicans to cave to the Democrats' demands. DHS has also pointed to an increase in returns of illegal immigrants, including more since May than in the entire fiscal 2019, and Biden just continues to look the other way. Meanwhile, Republican Texas Governor Greg Abbott sent a direct message to sanctuary cities yesterday, vowing that his state's transportation of illegals to their areas would continue until the federal government takes action on the worsening border crisis. Abbott wrote in a post on X, quote, Texas has transported over 102,000 migrants to sanctuary cities. Overwhelmed Texas border towns should not bear the brunt of Biden's open border policies. Our transportation mission will continue until Biden secures the border. Thank you, Governor Abbott. His promise comes amid this feud between he and the Biden administration over enforcement of the border. Texas has the authority to defend itself from the waves of the illegals overwhelming law enforcement and immigration officials, Governor Abbott believes. I tend to agree with him. The two sides have been arguing since 2021 when this crisis escalated and Texas launched Operation Lone Star to surge resources to the border. The administration recently sued over an anti-illegal immigration law that allows Texas state and local law enforcement to arrest illegal immigrants. It also sued over the state setting up buoys in the Rio Grande. The administration says that immigration enforcement is up to the federal government and Texas is interfering. Well, how do you interfere with something that's not happening? I still don't get the argument. I still don't understand why Joe Biden believes that Governor Abbott should just look the other way. What are those poor people in those Texas border towns supposed to do? Have you seen some of the images from there of these camps where tents have been put up? You have human waste. You have garbage all over the streets. They're destroying those towns. And Biden's allowing it. Unfortunately, last week, the Supreme Court ruled in a 5-4 decision on an emergency appeal to temporarily overturn a lower court's injunction that banned the federal government from cutting razor fencing Texas had installed. This was along the Eagle Pass area. Now, again, that's a temporary injunction or repeal of the injunction while the litigation continues. Let's hope that the Supreme Court comes to their senses when the final case comes before them. Following that ruling, Governor Abbott declared his constitutional authority to reserve the right of his state to self-defense against an invasion, adding that the executive branch had broken its constitutional pact with the states by failing to enforce federal immigration laws. Former President Donald Trump last week gave his support to Governor Abbott, urging states to send their National Guards to the border and promising to work hand in hand with the state to combat the invasion if he's inaugurated again in January of 2025. Abbott's also picked up the support of more than 24 Republican states who have publicly expressed their support for Texas. Meanwhile, some Democrats have urged the Biden administration to seize control of the Texas National Guard. Where is this headed? Where is this headed? 864-477-5639 is the Furman Ford text line. Love to get your comments. Billionaire hedge fund manager Bill Ackman, remember that name? He's continuing his campaign against Joe Biden, arguing that the drone attack that killed 3 U.S. soldiers and injured dozens more on Sunday was further evidence that the president should not have a second term in the White House. Mr. Ackman, I think we need to listen to him. More on that in just a moment. First, let me tell you about PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. I've been sharing with you we're getting close to 4 years now. This summer will be 4 years about my success and my journey with PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. I'm so thankful that I met Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team in the Greenville office, and that I was able to lose 30 pounds pretty quickly. And almost 4 years later, I've been able to maintain that weight. If you're ready to make 2024 the year of your health, to lose that excess weight, to lose it for the last time, maybe you've been on diets, fad diets in the past, and you've lost weight, but then you gained it back. Now you need to try something that's going to last for the rest of your life. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. Once you lose the weight, they put you on the lifetime maintenance program. They'll be there for the rest of your life to help you, to encourage you. If you fall off the wagon occasionally, which we all do, then they'll help you get back on track. Make that call today, 864-252-4925. Set up your initial consultation and see if this program is right for you. 864-252-4925. You can find them online at myphdweightloss.com. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers. So Bill Ackman wrote in an X post on Sunday, this was in response to news that the number of injured service members had climbed to 34. He wrote, "Our enemies perceive weak American leadership, which has allowed them to attack us with impunity at a grave cost to our servicemen." Ackman is the CEO of Pershing Square Capital. He said, "We arrived at a place where our enemies do not fear us. We are not respected, and the world is a much dangerous place as a result. We need strength and leadership in the White House. The idea that at POTUS Biden should continue for another term is dangerous and absurd." Following the attack on Sunday, President Biden extended his condolences to the families of the fallen soldiers, while announcing the attack and vowing that the U.S. would respond. In his post, the president said, "Have no doubt, we will hold all those responsible to account at a time and in a manner of our choosing." Now, Ackman, and the reason you may recognize his name, he's the influential Harvard University alum who recently led a successful campaign to oust his alma mater's former president, Claudine Gay. Remember this now? Is it coming to you? Who Bill Ackman is? She eventually lost her job, thank goodness. Now he's turned his sights on Joe Biden, arguing that the commander-in-chief is unfit to serve. Let's hope he can have the same success with Joe Biden as he did with the Harvard president. Ackman has gained public prominence in recent months following his criticism of several of the elite universities' handling of anti-Semitism on campus. He called for the resignations of Gay as well as the presidents of University of Pennsylvania and Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, after their controversial congressional testimony. Ackman has also expressed skepticism of corporate diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives. As you know, Joe Biden is 81 years old. He became the oldest person ever elected president at the age of 77. In an interview earlier this month on CNBC's Squawk Box, Mr. Ackman, who describes himself as a political centrist, said that Joe Biden should step aside due to his advanced age.
You know, I do think leadership matters enormously in everything from the economy to geopolitics. And And I hope we're going to have a broader selection than Trump and Biden. There's actually an interesting candidate who just announced his candidacy on the Democratic side that I would say no one has heard of, a congressman named Dean Phillips. You probably have heard of him, may know him. Met with him recently. I was impressed. I think Biden's done a lot of good things, but I think his legacy will not be a good one if he is the nominee. I do think the right thing for Biden to do is to step aside and to say he's not going to run and create the opportunity for some competition of alternative.
Why do you think that?
What do I think that? I think he's past his prime in a kind of meaningful way. I think the global security, I would say, and is going to become a very high-profile issue for, I think, the country. I think people are concerned about what's going on in terms of Russia, Ukraine, the Israel, Hamas situation. Russia and China are pretty belligerent today. Our relationships are not good. So I think, I do think of it's a bit like being CEO of a major company. It's a full-time job, and you need to be at your, you need to be strong. You need to be at your intellectual best. And I don't think Biden is there. And I don't say that, with any derision of the president. I always respect the president and want whoever the president is to be successful. But I think he's clearly past his physical and cognitive peak.
Ackman announced 2 weeks ago that he would be donating $1 million to a political action committee backing Representative Dean Phillips, the Democrat from Minnesota, who is challenging Joe Biden in the Democrat primary. We'll see what kind of success he may have. The 3 U.S. service members that were killed in this weekend drone attack in Jordan were identified yesterday as a decorated sergeant, a woman hoping to return home in June, and a daughter whose mom called her an angel. The tragic trio were all Georgia residents from the same military unit, officials said, identifying them as Sergeant William Rivers, 46, of Carrollton, Georgia, Brianna Moffitt, 23, of Savannah, and Kennedy Layden Sanders, 24, of Waycross, Georgia. They were all slain in the Saturday night attack by Iranian-backed militants over a small outpost near the Syrian border. The Washington Post quoted Sanders' mother as saying, all of these different things that she had plans for, were just cut short in the blink of an eye. I just feel like somebody like her that's so full of life is just unfair that she'll never get to realize those dreams that she had. And she's right. God bless this family. Kennedy was the first of the soldiers to be identified. Flags in Waycross were flying at half-staff Monday for Kennedy. The 3 slain service members served in the 718th Engineer Company, the 926th Engineer Battalion, and the 926th Engineer Brigade based out of Fort Moore in Georgia. They were killed when the armed drone hit their housing unit, according to U.S. officials. Moffitt's mother, Regina, said news of her daughter's death marked one of the saddest days of my life, and that would have to be true for any mom, any parent, to get the news of their child. She said, with a heavy heart, I have to say that my angel, my firstborn, was going on to be with God today. Love you, baby girl. Rest easy. Always will be my firstborn, she said. Rivers had enlisted in the Army Reserves in 2011 as an interior electrician and had served 9 months in Iraq in 2018 during Operation Inherent Resolve. The U.S. Army Reserve Command promoted him as a decorated sergeant who had received a slew of honors, including the National Defense Service Medal, Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, the Inherent Resolve Campaign Medal with Campaign Star, and other medals. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp noted in an emotional statement that the 3 dead were all from the Peach State. The weekend assault happened at a remote base in that northeastern part of Jordan, marked the first American fatalities from enemy fire in the region since U.S. troops were placed on high alert after Hamas's October 7th attack. The drone assault also was the deadliest attack on U.S. troops in the Middle East since an ISIS bomb killed 4 American soldiers in 2019. There's about 34 American service members also who were injured. An unknown number of them identified as members of the Arizona National Guard who have been deployed in Jordan since September. According to the Arizona National Guard, in a statement, Arizona National Guardsmen were identified to be in the area during the January 27th unmanned aerial drone attack in northeast Georgia. Facts of the attack are still being collected, and it's unknown at this time how many Arizona service members were impacted. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your text messages are welcome on the Furman Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are welcome as well. Here's a story of our federal government at its best. A woman accused of stealing more than $100 million from the U.S. Army is now retiring with full benefits despite this ongoing criminal investigation into an alleged 6-year fraud scheme. You're going to want to hear this one. I mean, again, this is our government at its finest. Portions of today's show brought to you by Furman Ford. It's never been more important to support locally run businesses than now. If you're in the market for a new vehicle, maybe you want a new pre-owned vehicle new to you and your family, one that you can trust, or maybe you just want some service. And it doesn't have to be a vehicle purchased at Furman Ford. Does not even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models, and they're not going to make you wait weeks and months to do so. Businesses like Furman Ford, I love doing business with them because it keeps the money right here in the upstate community. They do business the right way. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line with every single transaction. You're going to love them. Every time you go into Furman Ford, you call or you email, you always have the chance to talk with a member of the Furman family. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman, they know how to do business right. Let's support them. Find them online at FurmanFord.com. Again, that's FurmanFord.com. So here's the story. Janet Yamanaka Mello was accused of establishing a shell company. She then funneled taxpayer money to this company, which she spent on jewelry, clothing, vehicles, real estate. All of this according to a December 6th Department of Justice announcement. Limitations to a federal law allowed the alleged con woman to receive her full civil service benefit package, though, according to an Army spokesperson who was speaking to the San Antonio Express News. A spokesperson with the Army's Installation Management Command said in an email, the command has no authority to impact Ms. Mello's retirement. In accordance with the 5 U.S. Code Section 8312, an individual may be denied an annuity or retired pay on the basis of the service of the individual if the individual is convicted of treason, rebellion, or insurrection, or other similar offenses. There is no similar statutory authority for denying retired pay based on a conviction of other offenses, according to the Army. So here's what happened. As part of her job as a civilian financial program manager at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas, Mello determined whether organizations were eligible for the 4-H Military Partnership Grant. The partnership program was created to, quote, provide meaningful youth development opportunities for military-connected children, according to the indictment. Prosecutors allege that in December of 2016, Ms. Mello started a phony nonprofit. It was called Child Health and Youth Lifelong Development, and submitted fraudulent paperwork indicating it was eligible for grant money. She then directed the money to a UPS store mailbox near San Antonio that she rented and deposited it in her own bank account, according to the indictment. Federal prosecutors said in the indictment, all in all, Mello went through this process over 40 times during a 6-year period, securing over $100 million for herself in the process. She is also accused of forging her supervisor's digital signature to approve the funds. Mello was charged with 5 counts of mail fraud, 4 counts of engaging in a monetary transaction over $10,000 using criminally derived proceeds, and 1 count of aggravated identity theft, according to the DOJ. Prosecutors hope to seize any property they say Mello illegally acquired. I would hope so. Now get this. Albert Flores, Mello's attorney, told the San Antonio Express News that the allegations against his client shouldn't impact her ability to collect retirement funds after years of civil service. Flores told the local outlet she earned it. I don't see how one thing is related to the other. He argued that Mello has cooperated and that the government should be able to recover a large sum of the assets. He said, we expect a large portion of the assets will be recovered. In other words, a lot of the money was spent on tangible assets that the government can recoup, like real estate, cash, vehicles, properties, things of that nature. We're being very cooperative in anything we can do to turn that over. Is she going to go to jail? So is she going to get her government pension while she is in prison? Again, our federal government, unfortunately, at its finest. Only in America could you steal $100 million from the government and then be paid a lifetime pension. On the Furman Ford text line, I got a lot of them for you tonight. Try to get as many in as I can each night. Bonnie writes, and a lot of these are in response to some of the information that we talked about with Nikki Haley. And in fact, I ask you the question. Haley has said, of course, she's bringing her campaign to South Carolina. She's been making the rounds over the past few days, coming here from New Hampshire. And she has said, when asked, I think it was on NBC, maybe Kristen Welker, who asked her, does she have to win South Carolina to stay in the race? She never would commit to a true answer. She just kept saying that she had to do better. So many of you responded to that. Bonnie wrote, Nikki needs to stop this now. I can't stand to hear her voice. The longer she stays in, the more she's going to be disliked. So far, Trump has doubled her numbers, so she can't even get close. She'd not have the 17 she has if only Republicans were voting. She had to have the Dems and the Libs vote as Republican to get what she has. Pathetic. The 17 that Bonnie's referring to is she has 17 delegates because New Hampshire is a proportional state, unlike South Carolina, which is winner take all. So she did win some delegates in New Hampshire. Ace writes on the Furman Ford text line, Joey, Nikki is a typical politician. She was running her mouth but never answered the question. That pop shot on President Trump was a low blow. President Trump can't help that the tyrannical left is making up lies and keeping him in court. If she were to win, doesn't she realize that they're going to come after her too? Keep up the great work, Joey. You always manage to get my blood boiling in the morning in a patriotic way. Well, I'm glad it's in a patriotic way, Ace. Let's keep our blood pressure under control. Do want to make you think a little bit, though. Franklin says, I think Nikki Haley is going to stay in the race no matter what. I think she is bought, paid for by the Democrats or liberal independents that have the money to keep her funded and be the nuisance to Trump and distraction for voters. Faye writes, if Nikki doesn't come within 5 points of Trump, she needs to fade into the sunset. Family members were lifelong state employees, and they're still furious with her for reducing their retirement. She is not one of us in South Carolina, Faye says, and we don't want to hear how her husband has protected us, as she was not true to her wedding vows. That's according to Fitz News and some other previous reports. Your text messages are welcome on the Furman Ford text line as well. Texter writes, hi, Joey. The bad news for Nikki Haley in South Carolina is that she has a track record here, and it's not a good one. I believe the only way she keeps the race close is if she gets a huge crossover vote from Democrats. We know she gets the Rhino vote, but I think there are way more Trump supporters than Rhinos. However, Haley is not necessarily in this race to win it. She's there as a representative for the donor class as an alternative to Donald Trump should any of the lawsuits against him result in a conviction. That could be her strategy there. Changing the subject, Jennifer writes, regarding the Taylor Swift rant, I agree with you totally. We don't have to agree with all of our individuals' political positions in order to justifiably defend them regarding certain issues. The current battle is that she's in with her jet versus the carbon emissions police. Maybe now Taylor Swift will get a taste of how the real world is treating the rest of us. Maybe so. This is in reference to the climate folks are just standing on their head that Taylor Swift is jetting around the country to watch her new boyfriend play football. Scott from Toccoa, I have a question for you. Could you please explain to me how the carbon credit things work? Who are they buying the credits from? How is it helping the environment, and who gets the money from the purchases? Scott, I could probably do a whole episode on carbon credits. It's a pretty complex system, but basically it's smoke and mirrors. You can have this question is in reference to Taylor Swift as well, because Taylor Swift, her world tour, Eras or whatever it's called, has purchased carbon credits to offset the pollution that her big jet will cause. And again, this is all trying to be politically correct, environmentally correct. But the whole carbon credit thing, though, to answer your question, Scott, and it is a complex one, basically, though, you can have a company that has spent a lot of money on more efficient systems, maybe heating systems or manufacturing systems, so that they create a lot less pollution. So you have that company that is creating less. Then you can have a company that just doesn't want to put in or spend the additional money. They can buy credits. And to answer your question, Scott, the money goes to the government. They're buying credits that will allow them to exceed some of the regulatory guidelines. And that's what Taylor Swift's tour has done. They know that her jet and some of the other vehicles and all that will be involved will create more pollution than is, quote, allowed. So they're purchasing credits that are being created by another company someplace else who's creating less pollution. Again, that's a simplified version. It is smoke and mirrors. I may do a whole segment on that sometime, Scott. Thank you for your question, Scott from Toccoa. On our text of encouragement today, at any given moment, you have the power to say, this is not how the story is going to end. God bless. And that's a true statement. That is a true statement. Thank you for that. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. So I'm going to leave you with this one to think about today. Elon Musk announced that his human tech startup, Neuralink, has inserted a chip implant into the brain of its first human test subject. You heard me right. They have implanted this chip into a human being's brain. You're going to want to hear about this. Portions of today's show brought to you by Discounted Appliance Warehouse. Are you tired of buying appliances from inexperienced sales staff who have absolutely no appliance knowledge? There's a lot of different options out there, brands, features. It's tough to figure out which one's right for you. That's why you go to Discounted Appliance Warehouse. You take that short drive to Pickens to let Johnny and Jeff and their whole team over there walk you through the process and make sure that you choose the one that's right for you and your family, because appliances are too expensive to make the wrong purchase. When you go to Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they have the knowledge that will give you the confidence to make the right choice. Their warehouse is over 11,000 square feet, typically 1,500 or so appliances there waiting for you to choose from. They have expert installation, award-winning service departments, and extended warranties. They take care of you after the sale as well. Find them online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. Back to billionaire Elon Musk. He said that the person had the chip surgically implanted into their brain on Sunday and that they're recovering well. Musk wrote on X, which he owns, by the way. Initial results show promising neuron spike detection. Now, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration last year greenlit human trials of the company's brain chips after Neuralink performed hundreds of tests on pigs, sheep, and monkeys, and, of course, was called out for animal abuse by some of the animal rights groups in the process. Neuralink co-founder DJ Seo told Bloomberg News, "The last 2 years have been all about focus on building a human-ready product. It's time to help an actual human being." The brain chip, which has about 1,000 electrodes, is meant to allow people to wirelessly perform computer functions by just thinking of what they'd like to do via a think-and-click mechanism. Last month, the company said that it was looking for quadriplegics under 40 years of age to participate in human trials. Here's how it will work. A surgeon removes part of the test patient's skull before a 7-foot tall robot named R1 takes over to implant 64 threads lined with electrodes into their brain. The electrodes are programmed to gather data about the brain, including neural activity attached to movement intention. These neural signals recorded by the electrodes would then be sent back to Neuralink computers for decoding. The short-term goal of the company is to build a generalized brain interface and restore autonomy to those with debilitating neurological conditions and unmet medical needs, Seo, who also holds the title of Vice President for Engineering, told Bloomberg News. Then, really, the long-term goal is to have this available for billions of people and unlock human potential and go beyond our biological capabilities. It's unclear how many human participants will be part of the technology trial, which is designed to assess the safety of both the robot surgeon and the chip itself, as well as its functionality. The trial, we're told, will take about 6 years to complete. Here's my final question for you. Would you let this robot, R1, implant something in your brain? I don't know about this one. Now, kudos to this company if, in fact, it can help quadriplegics or other people who've had some type of accident, permanent disability. If it can help them, great. I'm all for it. I'm just not sure that I want Elon Musk putting something in my head. And what happens if it goes wrong? What happens if you start thinking these things and your body starts responding to them and you can't control it? How do you stop thinking? Maybe I'm overthinking this. I'd love to get your comments on this one. Send them to the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-5639. Will you let R1 insert this capacitor or whatever it is into your head, into your brain? I'm looking forward to what you have to say about that. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. And if you haven't joined our mailing list, please visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails with the most up-to-date news. Also, find me on YouTube. Just search for Joey Hudson, and I know a lot of you are on YouTube. Just search for Joey Hudson, subscribe, and click on the notifications. I've got some things I'm going to be adding to that channel real soon. Send me a quick text. I'll send you a link directly to the YouTube channel if you can't find it. Thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. We'll be back again tomorrow, and your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line. Leave me a quick voice message as well, 864-477-5639. Remember, folks, God's got this. He's still in control.